Hello, welcome to our training, How to Level Up Your Inner Game for Greater Wealth. I'm Sarah Nolan, and I'm super excited to be here with you in this training. Let me know if you're joining live. Let me know if you're on the replay. Drop a comment, say hello. I love to see where you're joining in from. Feel free to like the video, and we're going to get started here. I'm Sarah Nolan, and I help business owners and parents to create a life of abundance, ease, and flow. I began this journey with many fears and beliefs rooted in scarcity. And through my journey and my journey with my clients, I've created an amazing um, process and the tools to overcome pretty much any block that comes up. Anything that's standing in your way, there's a tool for, there's a process for. So my clients call me the secret weapon because while working with me, they can't help but win really big. It's like just by going through these processes, every part of their life massively levels up. So let me know in the comments if you are interested in leveling your life up. Like, what's the most important area that you would like to bring to the next level? I know this is a training about leveling up your inner game for greater wealth. And wealth is about money, and it's also about our relationships. I was just thinking about this today. Money, there's this misconception that money has to be really complicated. It's really just relationships, building relationships and creating value. And that's it. Relationships and value. And if you're somebody who can put yourself out there and build relationships and have really strong, healthy relationships, and you can create value, then money is naturally going to come to you. You'll be a magnet for money. And that involves having an open heart. So it's about money, but it's also about so much more. I'm just getting back to my notes here. So I grew up with the message that money is the root of all evil and that it somehow was harmful if we had more than other people. And think about that. It's not just about money, that's about everything. So if I had a better relationship than other people, then on a subconscious level, then I would feel like I was doing something wrong. I felt like I was hurting people. So I'd purposely play small in order to help other people feel good. And that's so messed up, but how many of us do that without realizing it? And it's just because of these subtle ways that we were taught as kids growing up. I also grew up believing that it was honorable to have a humble income, and that if you had a lot of money, that would make you somehow bad. My grandparents were all millionaire investors, and my parents talked about that in kind of a negative connotation. So I got this idea like, oh, money makes people bad. But at the same time, I also grew up watching them and watching their behaviors. And what I noticed about my grandparents that were millionaire investors was that they were great people. Like, they were always building relationships. They were the kind of people that everybody in town knew because they were always putting themselves out there. They were always getting involved in things. And there's no coincidence. Now, you don't have to be that kind of person. Like, you can be an introvert and still be great at relationship building. Like, you don't have to be, not everybody has to know who you are and still, be great at relationship building. It's just like being yourself and having an open heart and being generous with people. So even though, I had all of these crazy messed up beliefs about money and about my value, I read all the books, things like Think and Grow Rich, The Science of Getting Rich, You're a Badass at Making Money, and a whole lot more. And while these books were really helpful, I recommend everybody go out and read those books, and books like that. They're really helpful, but more on a surface level. Like they help you to think more positively about money and to have a positive attitude, and develop a healthier relationship with money. But there's something that they didn't do. Now, if you have blocks around money or you have limiting beliefs about your value, then you're going to need something more. You're going to need something that goes deeper. Um, and so what they were missing was about relationship with ourself, because what shows up in our life is directly related to our relationship with ourselves. And none of those books helped me to love and value myself more, which that is what it all boils down to, is how much do we love ourselves and how much do we value ourselves? Now, that being said, we can be like, there are plenty of millionaires and billionaires out there who don't love themselves. But the thing is, it's not about the number, it's not about the dollar amount, it's about your perception of that. So there are plenty of people who, for a lot of, from maybe from yours or my standpoint, don't have a whole lot of money, but they feel rich, they feel wealthy. And it's all about that feeling. You can have all the money in the world, but if you don't love and value yourself, you're not going to feel it. You'll never be satisfied. So that's why it's so important. And among exponentially improving the quality of my life, my financial health has been easily and steadily and significantly growing as well. For example, this year, my profits have doubled while working significantly less and spending much more time with my family. And that's what matters most. It's not about working harder to make more money. It's about being smarter with our money, having a better relationship with it and with our time, and creating a situation where we have all the money that we want and need and all the time that we want and need to spend with our family and with ourselves. So let me know in the comments if this is resonating so far, and let me know if you have any questions. Let's see. Okay. Just going back to my notes again. Through my own journey and helping my private clients' journey, I've developed some powerful tools to achieve in a matter of days what it took me years to break through. So it took me many, many years to break through these things. I felt like I had to unravel everything that I had learned growing up. And that took me a long time because I was trying to figure it out on my own. And I was using methods that were not going deep enough. I did therapy, I read the books, I did affirmations, I went to church, I prayed a lot. Those were helpful, but they weren't getting to the core of what I needed to break through. So when I started cultivating greater deservingness and worth deeply within myself, I started naturally finding more money in my bank account. And I know that might seem a little bit woo-woo, like what, magically just starts appearing out of nowhere? No, that's not what I mean at all. It seemed that way sometimes, but it's all these subtle decisions and these subtle shifts that we make in our thinking and our perception that that create that experience. So my bank account and your bank account is a sum of the little decisions that we make. So when you have a more empowered perspective, when you have a more empowered thought process, then you're naturally going to start making more empowered decisions. You're going to take more risks, but safe risks, risks that aren't going to cause you to go bankrupt, but you're going to put yourself out there more, and you're going to be more generous. You're going to be doing all the things that it takes to create a life of wealth. And the result of that is your bank account grows and it continues to grow. Now, a lot of people experience their bank account skyrockets, doing the manifestation practices and reading the money and wealth books and the mindset books. They apply those things and their bank account skyrockets. And then they do this thing where they suddenly like spend all their money or they give away all their money. I have one client who has a lot of, she's independently wealthy. She has a lot of just extra money, and she finds herself giving it away, giving it all away, so that her bottom line is is not very much at all. She doesn't leave very much for herself. And that's because this was in the past, that's because she had some very limiting beliefs about her worth and about what she deserved and about what was right. And so that's an example of when, you can have a tremendous influx of money, but then you don't actually see it because of your inner game, right? And this is why it's so important to be constantly focusing on that 80% of the results that you see in your bank account have to do with your subconscious mind and what's going on behind the scenes, right? So 95% of your mental processing is in your subconscious. So when we do these conscious mindset practices, we're not getting to the root cause. Like, why does your mind spiral? Why do you start to feel hopeless and depressed when you have an influx of success, or right before the finish line you somehow sabotage it and you don't actually meet that goal? It's not because of negative thinking. Negative thinking is just the symptom. And so going really deep and finding the root cause and unlocking that root cause and releasing it and reprogramming your mind is going to make subconscious and cellular changes so that you start seeing your world differently. You start seeing the opportunities that are right in front of your nose, and you start being able to say yes to those opportunities. You start being able to receive what you really deserve. You start being able to receive as a wealthy person. And that's what creates the true wealth that we experience. So let's see. Do you have any questions so far? I'm kind of going back and forth. Awesome. So far, so good. Perfect. So Gigi and Natalie, feel free if you have any questions, or if you want to share any of your personal experience, feel free to chime in. This is actually, this training's really helpful when I have somebody to on the line with me to be able to do this with. If you're able to, I know we only have a few minutes left. If you're able to say what is one block that you tend to experience? I'm just going to say the first thing that comes to my mind, and maybe I'm guessing that you all can resonate with this a little bit. Imposter syndrome. Okay, this is one of the most common things that comes up while we're growing our wealth, because we're growing out of the family patterns that we grew up with, and we are growing out of our identity. It's like we're that butterfly and growing into our wings. And as the caterpillar looks at the butterfly and says, "Who's that? Who am I to be that? I could never do that," right? And consciously we know, well, I'm going to be a caterpillar. I'm going to be a butterfly someday. But then when something deep down inside us says something differently, and then we unconsciously sabotage everything. So when you think about imposter syndrome, that little voice inside that says, who am I to do that? Or who am I to have that? Right? Or who am I to be that? I have a special energetic process that unlocks the subconscious mind, and we can go really deep back into the origins of these patterns and then clear them out. What we're going to do this evening is like the first step to that process. And if you want to go deeper, just let me know, and I can actually bring you on one of these sessions, and we can do that together. And also make sure you join the group. It's Women Wealth Builders. And I'm going to be doing this in that group. It's called Women Wealth Builders. You'll see the link in the description of the video. But what you do is, take this example of imposter syndrome. Raise your hand if you can relate to that. I think every human on the planet goes through that at some point. It's a natural part of the process because think about it. For generations after generation after generation, we are stuck in these roles. It's like my family does things like this. People like me do things like this. That's why it's so incredibly hard to get out of a poverty cycle. That's why it's so hard to get out of like abuse cycles and in these negative cycles that our families find themselves in. And then there's one person who sees a glimmer of hope and says, you know what? I can have better. I can do better. And then they find a mentor, and then they get some education, and then they grow out of that pattern. But in the process, and we're all doing this, everybody who's listening right now, everybody who's in a group like this, we are all doing this work. And so as we find ourselves growing out of these family patterns, there's still a little part of us, like that little girl inside of us feels like she might be rejected. When my family sees that I've surpassed their highest level income, when my family sees that I've surpassed their quality of life, they're going to think less of me. They're going to be threatened by me. So that's when the little girl goes into panic mode, and she's like, all right, everybody pull back, right? And then we stop everything, and we find excuses. We find reasons to pivot. We find reasons to shift. We find reasons to stop everything. We find reasons that things aren't working, and we have to scrap everything and start over. Have you ever experienced that? Let me know in the comments if you've ever experienced that self-sabotage cycle when you start experience high levels of success. I can tell you when I first started this business, I did that big time. It took off so fast. Within 6 months, I was on track to make 6 figures, and it just, the money didn't freak me out, but like everything around it freaked me out. And I just stopped. I did everything that I just told you. Like I found all the reasons it wasn't working. I found all the reasons that I had to scrap everything and start over. And so that was my cue to really go deep and do some deep inner work. And I was able to move through that and way surpass what I was doing before without any of those problems. And the reality is that it can be really fun and it can be really easy. All right, so going back to what I was saying before about the imposter syndrome. Okay, so look at your situation and think about, okay, you can close your eyes and go deep into yourself and think about, what was I taught about money when I was a kid? What was I taught about? Hello, Vanessa. What was I taught about successful people? What was I taught about wealthy people? What was the standard for my family? Okay, so really get clear about that. And now look at, you have to kind of look past the conscious mind and say, okay, like be really honest with yourself, because we consciously know it's like, my family's going to love me no matter what. But there's that little but there. Okay, so listen to that but. Listen to that little tiny voice, that little girl voice, and project yourself forward. And it's like, when I am in this phase where my family can't relate to me anymore, because you've grown so far out of what they know to be true. You've grown so far out of their standard, out of their normal, that they can't relate to you anymore. They don't know what to say to you because they can't complain with you. They can't commiserate with you anymore, right? So put yourself in that position, and you can really look at, okay, where exactly is that block laying? And then you can, you're holding on to that somewhere in your body, and it's really powerful when you release from your body, because everything we hold in our cells, we have a cellular memory for these things. We're born with a cellular memory of the traumas, of the fears, of the beliefs. And so going deep into your cells and finding those beliefs, finding those fears and releasing them, it'll change everything in your life. I mean, immediately, the moment you do that, you will get new ideas. You will start seeing the opportunities that are in front of you. You'll start seeing yourself differently. You'll start getting these mind-blowing epiphanies about, oh my gosh, this is what's going on in my life right now. This is why I've been stuck in these behavioral patterns. And you'll start taking action differently. You'll be inspired to do things differently. And that is where you lock in the changes, is when you take that inspired action. Okay, so let me know in the comments if you would like to be in one of my next live sessions where I actually take you through this process personally. And we can set that up. It's going to be on a Thursday night, or in the Women's Wealth Builders group, which I have the link in the description. We can do it in that group as well. Okay, so let me know, what is your biggest takeaway so far? I know we've talked about a lot of different things. Let's just go over what we have talked about so far. So we've talked about the mental blocks that prevent us from really experiencing the wealth. Even if you're making, multiple six figures a year, multiple six figures a month, you may still feel, like you're making $25,000 a year. I see that all the time. So we talked about those mental blocks that prevent us from experiencing the true wealth. We talked about how wealth is a reflection of what's deep inside of us, of our inner game. So if you're not seeing the wealth you really want, that's a sign. Start with your inner game. Your inner game is 80% of the work to do, and everything else just follows from that. Okay. We talked about how your bank account is the sum of the little decisions that you make, and those little decisions come from your your belief system in your identity. And I actually have a video that I uploaded recently to YouTube. I'm going to put that in the description or in the comments somewhere. This is a video where I took somebody through the process of up-leveling their identity about themselves and about what the normal that they make each month. So I'm going to put that's going to be a really good next step from this training here, to go watch that video so that you can experience that for yourself. As you watch those videos, there's a couple in there on my YouTube channel. You're going to experience the shift. So even though you're watching somebody else, it's going to be helpful to hear their experience and their story, but you're also going to experience the shift for yourself. Okay. So if you want to level up on a subconscious level, the normal that you experience in your life, like if you're going from, say, $30,000 a month and you want to go up to $50,000 to $75,000 a month, you're going to have to make some pretty big shifts in your mind. And so this is going to help you to expand your new normal. All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me this evening. Feel free to type any questions that you have in the comments. If I don't see them right away, if you're watching the replay and you type a question, I'll go back and listen. Thank you so much, Vanessa and Natalie and Gigi, for tuning in this evening. And I'm going to end the video now, and then I will post some YouTube videos in the description. And again, join my Facebook group It's women wealth builders, and we're talking about the inner and outer game of wealth building. We're talking about the inner and outer strategies to really create a life of wealth, right? Wealth of money, wealth of time, wealth of health, wealth of love. And we're going to do it all because you can have it all. You deserve to have it all, and you are worth wealth in every area of your life. So thank you and have a wonderful night, and we'll connect soon.